Welcome into another episode of Jellyfin June. Today we are going to look at tvOS clients because I think the client experience is one of the most important things when it comes to switching away from Plex. And on tvOS, the ecosystem is incredibly rich. I thought this video would take me a couple of nights to put together, but it's taken me well over a week because I've got I think 15, maybe 17 clients to look at today. So we're going to look at things like what the first run experience is like, what library browsing feels like, playback performance, formats and quality support, what the actual player controls feel like, when you're using your remote to do things, as well as extra features. There's a couple here that have some really fun stuff like AI-powered search and things like that. And then give each one an overall polish and maturity score. And then we're going to do the standard S tier kind of rating, ranking, tier list video that you see on YouTube all the time. So first things first, let's take a look at the official Jellyfin client for tvOS called Swiftfin. This is the official Jellyfin client for tvOS. Now, take a look when we log in. It does a few things quite well, like the login experience is fine. It picks up local servers using the discovery layer. So I can use Quick Connect to hook into my server. And Quick Connect is a really nice feature. So I just go straight over to the server, click on the little person up here, click on Quick Connect and type in this 6-digit code right here. And as you can see, in a couple of seconds, you're logged in to your server. Now, one thing I don't like about this client is that it just loads a grey screen on first load. I know that's a really small thing, but why doesn't it just load something? Then browsing your media is just, honestly, it's kind of exactly the bare minimum of what you would expect and nothing more. And that really is how I would define this client, to be honest with you. So from a first run perspective, it doesn't take long to get up and running. So I'd score it pretty well, actually, because it supports Quick Connect. I didn't have to do much typing. And the default out of the box experience is perfectly usable. The navigation is pretty easy to understand. It's pretty much exactly what you would expect. Again, browsing your library, very straightforward. It shows me everything that I've got in a very easy to consume format. When it comes to playback performance, it doesn't let me select playback quality like some of the other options do. I can select things like subtitles, audio, playback speed, and chapters. I think I still need to generate my trick play images on this server. Trick play, by the way, is an option to generate thumbnails. So instead of getting these grey boxes, you get thumbnails. Now, that's not a Swiftfin problem. That's an Alex hasn't run trick play on his server problem. But one thing that annoys me about this client is there's no visual feedback right now. If I press the down arrow on my remote, I get to this menu. If I press the enter button or select button, I get this very sparse on-screen like suite of controls where I can turn the subtitles on and off, and that's pretty much it. If I'm in this menu and I press the down arrow, nothing happens. So I have to be on a clear playback screen and then press the down arrow, and this is what I get. So actual playback performance and supporting of different codecs and things like that is pretty good. The player controls for me are just completely middle of the road. Now, when it comes to extra features, things like AI search and other theming and just anything other than the bare minimum basic experience, this client has none. So I can't really give it a score in that category. And in terms of overall polish and maturity, this client just saw a reasonable sized update, I think, recently. So who knows? Maybe it will continue to improve as some of the other options on the scene become more popular. But for me, Swiftfin is entirely C tier. It's just a middle of the road. We'll do video playback and that's it. Because in terms of exposing even things beyond just the basic realm of video, I only see movies and TV shows, whereas you can see in the main Jellyfin library itself, I've got things like home movies, like all my drone footage and stuff, personal videos from, doing YouTube for years. Like, it doesn't expose any of this. It doesn't expose music either. So Swiftfin, really basic overall experience. If all you're after is a basic movie and TV show experience, then Swiftfin should have you covered. Now, the next one I want to talk about today is called Infuse. This is a self-described elegant video player. And honestly, for actual media playback, it is excellent. It has full hardware acceleration. It's got its own video engine, so it supports Dolby Vision and all of those kind of exotic file formats. But the setup process is kind of weird. So you'll see, like, out of the box, look, you don't really get any clues as to what to do. So I have to go to shares and then I can add a media server, and then I can add Jellyfin. And in fact, I noticed just down here, it did the auto discovery of Jellyfin in this section here. So now I can click on this and I can type in my username and password this way. Note it doesn't support Quick Connect, which is a really useful feature when logging into a lot of clients like I'm doing whilst filming this video. Once I've added the share, as you can see, it pops up pretty quickly. Like all of the stuff that I've been using before appears exactly as you would expect. And browsing it, it supports things like local home movies and stuff like that. Like here's some footage from a track day that I did a few years ago at VAR in my lovely Volkswagen Golf. That was a fun day. So it supports that just fine. And then in terms of the actual playback screen for movies and things, like it, you can jump into a trailer, you can favorite things. You can jump around in the cast like you would expect in this kind of a client. Then once the movie actually loads, jumping around the file itself is quite performant. I can't swipe left or right on the Apple TV touchpad, but I can. You see how it says the swipe down for more info? That's all that the Swiftfin client needs to do to shut me up about moaning about the lack of on-screen controls. And I can select all the different things like info. I can see codec, file size, bit rates. There's a bunch of other stuff here that I'm not going to use, but it's nice that it's there. I can select subtitles and the audio tracks very easily. And then in here, I can select things like these are actually all of the movies in this library. I don't know why they think I would want to jump between a movie on the player screen, but I guess it would be useful for TV shows. And then here, I think this might be the audio tracks, although it could be subtitles. Honestly, it's not entirely clear just from the icon. And then here, oh, okay, there's the audio track, so the other one must be subtitles. And then a nice thing that Infuse does, look, or at least I thought it would. I'm clicking on this button here. I thought it would support picture-in-picture, but it apparently doesn't. And as I say, one of the biggest pros for Infuse is the codec support. It's, I was on the actual Plex client itself, I experienced quite a bit of stuttering after about 10 minutes on the Apple TV. And that all went away when I switched to Infuse for a little while. And then in terms of search, let's just have a look. Margin call. Yeah, it comes up just like you would expect. So Infuse is a pretty solid option. It doesn't blow the doors off, and it's, it's fine. Like you can see how it even presents things in the Jellyfin format. Again, though, it doesn't support music, doesn't support audiobooks, or any file type that isn't video. But I guess that is what it is at the end of the day. So first run defaults, I'm going to knock a couple of points off Infuse, to be honest, because I do find that initial adding a share versus adding a server onboarding experience a little confusing. Maybe an on-screen wizard would help there a little bit. Library browsing, it's fine. Playback performance and quality handling of formats, best in class, actually. This will be the best player we look at today. Although one to watch in this space is Neptune, and we'll come on to that in just its own moment. And Infuse is particularly good at this, again, because it has its own player and it licenses the official Dolby codecs for things like Dolby Vision and what have you. Not every client does, because Dolby charges an arm and a leg for access to that stuff. The player controls are okay. Because of the icon thing, I'm going to be a little harsh and give it a 7. Even though it has the swipe down for info thing. Extra features, what extra features does it have? I mean, I suppose having the codec support, I don't know. It doesn't do anything super fancy, so let's just give it a 6 right here. And then overall polish and maturity, it's very stable. It just does what it says on the tin. So Infuse is a solid A tier for me. Yeah, a couple of improvements to the onboarding experience and some of the playback controls and the library management, and it would be in the S tier for sure. But Infuse is an A tier. Okay, let's have a look at Neptune. This is a brand new entrant, and indeed this one's actually only available in TestFlight today. Now, it is in beta, as the disclaimer on the screen is showing, and the onboarding wizard, as a consequence, the developer reached out to me and told me, after seeing my live stream complaining about how long this wizard is, says that this wizard will be shortened dramatically in the final release, but certainly for right now, it is a little bit long. But note that it supports both Plex and Jellyfin. I think the developer is just focusing on Jellyfin for right now. Now, the auto discovery thing here sometimes works. Okay, it's going to work today. Sometimes it doesn't, but it does support Quick Connect. It saves you a lot of hassle when you can just pull your phone out and use a 6-digit code to get connected to your server. Now, do you want to sync preferences across Neptune clients? Yes, sure, why not? Now, one of the things that makes Neptune interesting is the format and quality handling aspect of its own custom player called Trident. But they did just announce pricing for Neptune. The monthly price will be $2 a month, yearly will be $17 a year, and then lifetime will be $130. Now, if the features that require licensing don't apply to you, you can continue to enjoy Neptune's base features at no cost. But what I know is coming down the road from what I've learned on the live streams from Neptune and what I've been told is that their iOS app is going to plug in really nicely to the tvOS app. I can't say more than that, but it's going to be one to watch for sure. Now, once you're through this onboarding wizard, you will be greeted by one of the most beautiful clients in the Jellyfin ecosystem. Couple of things you might notice in this onboarding wizard already. You can use natural language to search through your library. So rather than having to know the TV show and the episode or the movie, you can literally search by plot points that you can recall. That's super cool, and nothing else in this list is doing anything like that yet. I'm sure this feature will end up being copied because it's just so obviously awesome. You can also link Neptune with Sia. That's the first client that we've mentioned in this list that can do that. It supports multiple user profiles, which again, I don't believe the other two apps in this video yet have done, which is really nice. So I can have an option for me and an option for my kiddo so that we don't pollute each other's watch history, which is always nice. So out of the box, here is what I believe is the most beautiful client in the Jellyfin ecosystem as it stands today. This out of the box experience is just beautiful. Just looks really nice. I get a clear indication of how far through each movie and TV show that I am. And I don't know if you noticed that look, but the theme kind of reacts to what's behind it. So the images, see how this one it's orange and I go to Barbie and it changes to blue. It's subtle things like this throughout this client that I really, really enjoy. Now, I'm personally not a huge fan of these buttons along the top. I prefer the side menu, which I think Plezy will show you that in a little bit later on. But under movies, let's just have a look and see how that's presented. Again, you can see it's a fairly standard implementation of what you would want here, honestly. But performance is good. I can filter by lots of things. I can filter by genres, years, ratings. Some of these things other clients just aren't doing. Some of them sound really obvious, but they're not being done elsewhere. We also get the cast and crew down here like this. And one thing I like about this actually is how it shows the director. Often the director gets completely overlooked by the actors in the movie, first of all. So that's kind of nice too. So I can see all the different movies that Keanu is in across his career. And this is where if you have your Sia integration installed, it lets you acquire content from across the internet. So let's have a look at shows real quick before we look at some of the other features of this client. Again, I just love this big hero image at the top. It just puts my stuff front and center. It's pretty great. Now, it again, like many of the other clients, doesn't appear to support music or other media types like home videos and stuff like that. You can see my drone footage, for example, isn't in here. But it does let me look at movies by decade, which is kind of interesting. And now, if we jump into search, this is where it starts to get pretty cool. So I'm just going to do margin call. Okay, so that worked just fine. But now I'm going to go in here and search for movie about stock market. Okay, well, no results were found. So one thing we can do is we can go into the settings and we can have a look at the search options here, because Neptune builds its own local search index. So you can do things like semantic search, which is what I was doing with my voice just then a moment ago. And then if you back out of this menu and go into the deep learning option, look at this. You can configure LLM providers for AI-powered features like natural language search and smart recommendations. Now, out of the box, Neptune AI uses an on-device, like on the Apple TV model, which is why it's fine, but not great. So let's say you wanted to hook this up to Olama, so you can keep this, again, all on-premise without spending API credits every time you want to search. Or if you want to set your credit card on fire, you can hook up a LLM API token just here. It also supports OpenRouter if you want to just configure one API key and then have OpenRouter on the back end go and do all of the stuff with all of the upstream providers. So there are a ton of features in this client, honestly more than I've got time to get into today. So first run defaults. The onboarding wizard is kind of long right now, but that's only because this is in beta. I am told that that will improve over time. Library browsing does exactly what you'd expect, apart from one thing. So here is my drone footage folder. Where are the files? And it looks like unless this is matched to an upstream metadata provider, like personal videos, aren't going to load properly. Music doesn't load either. So again, I'm not sure if this is just because those media types aren't currently supported, whether they plan to be or not in the future. I don't know. I can only review what's on the truck. Let's take a look at playback performance. Scrubbing through the file is nice and performant look. And if I want to look at stats for nerds, look at that. It brings up all sorts of interesting stuff about codecs and bit rates, and I love that stuff. Under here, this is one feature that is, I think this is the first client to offer it, is I can tell Jellyfin, transcode please, and I want you to do it at 4 megabits per second. This is incredibly useful when traveling in hotels and stuff. So do not underestimate that as a feature if you travel with your Apple TV. Now this option, which I believe is going to be improved in the next release, is how you change the subtitles and the chapters and the audio tracks. It's going to be laid out more clearly in a future one. For right now, it's a little bit confusing, so player controls will lose a couple of points on me for that one. So first run defaults are pretty good. Library browsing is pretty good. Playback performance, pretty good. Format and quality handling, actually, I think it's better than a 7. I think that could be an 8 pretty easily. Player controls for now, I'm going to give them a 6 just because there's some weirdness around some of the submenus. Extra features, I think this client is by far and away leading the pack. It's showing what's going to be possible in the future using AI to search our libraries. Overall polish and maturity, well, it's not quite there yet, is it? So I think we can only give this one a 7. But for me, Neptune, once it's finished and once it's added a lot of those features that are kind of half finished right now, and certainly once the iOS app comes along, I think that will be S tier. But for right now, it's the leader of the pack for sure as an A tier app. The next one we're going to look at is Zuno. Now, this is another brand new entrant into the space, and I quite like this one as well. So as you can see, it supports both Plex and Jellyfin. It automatically detects the test server that I have here at 1.100. So I'm going to need to get logged in using the Apple TV remote app because unfortunately it doesn't appear to support Quick Connect, but that's fine, I guess. Now this one also supports integrating with Sia as well, and Tracked as well, if you can see on the screen right here. So Tracked is a service that you can use to track the shows that you've watched to a third-party service. So you can do things like recommendations and port that between Plex and Jellyfin, and there's a bunch of other stuff. Now, this brings me to one of the weird things about this client. I've just logged into my library and I'm being shown content that I don't have in my library as the default. Like, is that weird? It's weird to me. I mean, I can still see all of my stuff here, like continue watching, recently added in TV and movies, yada, yada, yada. Bunch of genres there, of course. And yeah, a bunch of recommendations, some nice animations, so some good visual polish to this one. But I just find that whole, like, I'm going to recommend you a bunch of stuff you don't have a little weird. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Also, the overlay up here in the top left-hand corner of the different library options, I don't know. I don't love it. Personal taste, of course, personal preference, but let's see what the search, I mean, see, even this is so heavily showing me media that's not in my library. It's just weird. Anyway, I should probably stop saying the same thing over and over. Margin call. Okay, good. Let's see what the pre-play screen looks like. Yeah, okay, pretty standard. Got all the cast, all the technical information. Yeah, it's laid out nicely. What does Apollo 11 have to do with margin call? I'm not entirely sure, but let's take a look at the playback controls in this one. Okay, pause that. Now the on-screen info information's good. Like, okay, I mean, I don't need the cast whilst I'm watching the movie, I guess, but cool, whatever. It's not a deal breaker. Can I change the quality? Oh, well, I've got my stats page. Okay, I thought that would be quality, but it's stats. What about this one? Playback speed, and then I'm going to assume audio tracks. This is something that's really hard for Apple TV clients to get right, it would seem. Like, it's very easy to lose where you are on the screen with the elements, the UI elements that you have selected. But anyway, I can switch audio tracks, and subtitle tracks. Yeah, there you go. Here is the TV library screen. It looks pretty clean, pretty obvious. Let's see how seasons are organized. Yeah, very easy to switch between different series. Okay, no real notes on the TV screen. How are movies organized? Again, it's a very basic grid. I don't know. So Zuno's a pretty strong candidate. There's lots to like in this one. The first run defaults, I'm going to actually modify this score pretty heavily because I don't like how heavily, and again, this is just personal preference, but I don't like how heavily media I don't have in my libraries being pushed at me. Library browsing ease was pretty fine. It didn't do anything fancy. Playback performance was fine. It handles all the codecs just fine. I don't think we could select the quality, could we? Let me see if I can press and hold on this one to get any more options. No. Or if this 3-dot menu has... No. So we can't select different playback qualities. So I'm going to give this one it's a bit harsh maybe, but a 5. Player controls were fine. Nothing to write home about. Extra features. I suppose it supports tracked and seer. So no AI features. Maybe that's a bug. Maybe that's a feature. It depends. Overall polish, I think it's a 7. So Zuno, overall, I would say it has real potential. It's not there yet, but it has real potential. So I'm going to rate Zuno as a B tier today. Next one we're going to look at is an app called JellySee. Now, this is a client that I'm pretty sure many people don't know about. Now, unfortunately, this one doesn't support auto discovery for some reason, but it does support Quick Connect. So take that for what you will. Now, JellySee kind of just feels like any other streaming service, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. So in Zuno, I'm being presented with a bunch of content that I don't have, but in JellySee, it's all just my stuff. That's exactly what I want. Now, the only feedback would be here on this top page when I'm pressing the left arrow right now. It doesn't take me to the menu. I have to press the back button to bring up the menu in the top left, but I mean, otherwise, I suppose it's fine. Now, this is the first client we've actually seen that says it supports music. However, I know for a fact there are... Okay, I was going to say there's more albums than that. And there we go. All right, perfect. A little bit of murder noms for a lovely Sunday evening video record. Okay, well, it's the first one that supports video, so big tick for that one. Personal videos, can it load those? Let's just see. Don't know how it's going to figure out related content to my personal videos. It really shouldn't do that, to be honest. Well, I've been sat here for over a minute waiting for it to load, and it's not going to load. And we know it does load from previous clients, so I'm going to rate that one as a fail. Let's just see if it'll play any drone footage real quick. Play. Is it going to play any personal media? I waited for over a minute for that one as well. So unfortunately, JellySee did not do very well with non-metadata matched media. Maybe it's trying to do like endless lookups or something. I don't know. So let's see how a movie whose metadata is matched plays. When I hit resume, let's see what the sort of load time is like. Ponderous. Yeah, I don't know why this has been so slow today. I've used JellySee quite a bit on my personal Apple TVs downstairs over the last month, and it's been fine. There we go. Well, you know, I guess JellySee's just not playing ball today. What is with that UI thing flashing around as well? Maybe there's been an update. I don't know. But when I look at when I do the same test in something like Infuse or whatever, it's absolutely fine. So it's not the network on the Apple TV. It's just some weirdness with JellySee. So let's take a look at the playback controls whilst we're here anyway. So here's how you select the audio tracks and subtitles. And info is this wonderful overlay here of stats for nerds. I love that. Playback speed. We've got some audio adjustments. It's kind of nice to have that exposed in the player. Oh, so the picture-in-picture works in this client. Nice, nice. So it didn't work in Infuse, but the local playback of local videos did. But anyway, so maybe you're getting the impression that this ecosystem is rather is evolving. Nothing is quite finished. Yeah, I think that's probably the most polite way I can put it. So anyway, JellySee is a solid client. First run defaults, pretty good, to be honest with you. I like the way it exposes everything. Library browsing was very easy. The way it's laid out makes a ton of sense to me, at least. Playback performance, I think we're going to have to give that one, honestly, a 1 or a 2. Let's give it a 2 because I think a 1's a bit too harsh. Format and quality handling, I couldn't select any bit rates, so again that's going to be quite a low score on a 5. Player controls were really nice. How that was all laid out was pretty good. Extra features, there aren't really any. Although this client came to my attention because I wanted to do some home automation with Home Assistant, and this player actually exposes some API handles that my automation could hook into. So if you want an Apple TV client that exposes some intents for automation, maybe this one's worth a look. But unfortunately, this demo tonight did not go well. So overall polish and maturity is going to have to be probably, even though it's beautiful, it didn't work very well, did it? So actually, maybe even tonight, maybe it was just demo gremlins. I don't know, because like I say, this one's worked pretty well for the last few weeks for me. Maybe there's been an update or something. Anyway, JellySee, D tier. Next one on our list is JellyTV, which honestly looks like Apple TV Plus or something when you first log into it like this. So I need to connect my Jellyfin library. Let's check the detection of local servers. There you go. This actually did an even better job than some of the other clients. It found meeseeks, which is on a completely different VLAN, so it shouldn't even be able to see that. I'm curious if I've set something up that's talking across VLAN somewhere that I didn't mean to. Anyway, PMS demo is the one behind me. It's the PerfectMediaServer over there, and if you want to get a link to build the PerfectMediaServer, there's a link just up here for you. Okay, let's use Quick Connect and get connected. I'm going to get myself connected. Okay, here we are, and we're in. Okay, now this is nice. First impressions are pretty good, the way it exposes everything that's here. I like also, weirdly, the way that it exposes both episodes, because sometimes when you're just randomly playing episodes, you want to be watching or catching up on different seasons at the same time. That's kind of nice. Oh, what's with the weird gaps? That's weird. Okay. Some of these clients, by the way, I'm checking out for the first time, or maybe the second time after I did a big sort of 2-hour live stream last weekend. These weird gaps are weird. So library layout, not the best, honestly. Let's see what the playback controls are like. Use current defaults. Okay, cool. Now, let's have a look. We can adjust playback speed. We can adjust subtitles. Nice. Audio track, I assume. Yeah. Oh, and you can boost the audio from there. That's nice too. Quality. There you go. Okay, so not every client exposes this as we've seen. So it's nice that we can do that here. Not as granular as you might like. I mean, just selecting purely resolution and not even discussing bitrate. Like the original file, what quality am I looking at right here and what am I going to be transcoding to? Would be nice to expose that information. If I click on info, what happens? Yeah, I guess that's a bit of a weird, yeah, like I'm only pressing it once and watch. It's just like going do, moving around twice. Yeah, not completely polished, not completely finished, I don't think this one. But what else have we got on the side here? Catalog. Okay, so it connects with SIA to do requests. Pretty nice. Search, let's do our old favorite of margin call. There you go. Oh, there's a lot of options for sorting in here. I like that a lot. Very nice. Okay. And then the pre-watch screen. This is where you can surface a lot of really important detail to people. We don't have bitrate anyway. Oh, we do. Just, yeah, under video on the right-hand side there. JellyTV is indeed promising. It's quite sparse, and the first run defaults look kind of nice. Library browsing, again, it's not using my most favoritist UI paradigm of that little box up in the corner, but that's very much a personal preference. Playback performance was fine, I think. I haven't dug too much into the testing of that one, honestly. So please, you know, don't put a huge amount of weight on that particular score for this client. We could select quality. We could select resolution, but not bitrate or anything like that. So player controls are pretty good. I'll give the format and quality handling a 7. Extra features, it supported SIA, but it didn't have anything really truly groundbreaking. I think with the weird spaces in the UI and stuff, the overall polish and maturity of this client probably has a bit of a way to go. But honestly, it's a strong B. Yeah, I'd say it's definitely better than Swiftfin. So let's give this one a B. Okay, we're rattling through them now. Let's take a look at Moonfin. And straight away, I am pleased to see that discovered servers comes up with no fuss whatsoever. So let's do quick connect. And straight away, we are into Moonfin, which I believe just a couple of days ago, between my live stream last weekend and this weekend, saw a major update. So hopefully some of the weirdness that I saw in that live stream has been fixed. This this home screen view is a little weird. Hey, it's I mean, why is it taking up the entire thing like that? Ah, it's a shame. Let's see if it can play local media though. Drone footage. Oh, there you go. All right. This was back when I used to fly FPV racing drones. Oh man, that was such a fun hobby. Okay, so this screen, I don't know. Like aesthetically, it's not the most beautiful screen I've ever seen. I mean, it plays, so I mean that's already better than some of the other options we've looked at tonight. Where I've lost where my cursor is. There it is. Let's have a look at the pre-play on a metadata matched piece of media. So the Barbie movie is like that. Okay, let's take a look at the pause play controls. Wow, there's a lot of good stuff in here, hey? I can do favorites. This is, honestly, this is the best now playing screen that I've seen so far tonight. It's just clear. Everything's laid out. It's not like my eye's not tracking left and right. I can see, I can change playback quality from here. Very nice. I'd like to be able to see what the current bitrate is that I'm streaming at alongside what I'm going to select, just so I know what I'm changing to or from. I mean, so yeah, clearly the information is surfaced. So 29.4 megabytes per second, or is it megabits? I always get that wrong. Audio, yeah. You see, so honestly, this is pretty cool. Now, another thing that Moonfin's going to do over time is they're going to create something called Moonbase, which allows you to configure all of your clients centrally. And there's a couple of others that do that as well. I think Neptune's going to do that. And I'm just really excited about some of the things that are happening in this space. Oh, shuffle. Let's have a look. Random shuffle. Okay. That's pretty cool. Like if you don't know what to watch, it's almost like a random, yeah, like a movie night button. That's pretty cool. I like that option. That's not one I've seen before. Genres. Yeah, cool. Favorites. Libraries. Yeah, cool. Nice. Well, they've improved a few things and broken a couple of others in the last week, at least. But obviously, if that's the improvement that happens within a week, this player is just going to keep improving all the time. So Moonbase is Moonfin, I should say, is a really cool one. You can see the Moonbase plugin here. This is something that you have to install on the Jellyfin server, and then your client can sync and pull and sync different settings between different clients. Pretty cool, like mobile device management, but for your Jellyfin server. Pretty nice. Okay, so Moonfin first run and defaults. Solid, honestly. The library browsing ease, I'm going to drop that down to a 5, only because of the weirdness of the home screen. With those big gaps, it makes it kind of not obvious that there's another element there for you to choose from. Playback performance was good. Quality and formats, again, I can select the resolutions, and I can select the bit rates with this one, but it didn't tell me what my current bit rate was. Player controls were the best we've seen tonight, so I'm going to give that one, I'm going to give that one a 9, I think. Extra features, nothing groundbreaking yet, although the mobile device management style server-side sync with Moonbase is pretty cool, so I think a 7's pretty fair with that one. Polish, it's got to be a 6. Some of the UI glitches and things like that, it's not there yet. Moonbase, some of this is me, but I know that this is a brand new app, so it's only going to get better. So Moonfin, I'm going to drop that in B tier as well. This one has a huge amount of promise, and it won't be very long at all before this one is an A tier. Honestly, it's right on the borderline as it is, but for tonight, Moonfin is B tier. Now, don't mind the quick costume change from me. It's a couple of days later. Like I say, this video took a long time to put together. So let's take a look now at SenPlayer. This one is kind of in the same bucket, I think, as Infuse. You can see in the settings right here, we've got a few different things to look at in terms of, you know, configuring a server. But we actually want to go to the resources tab first of all, and then add a new server under here. So you can see I've already got my main Meeseeks server configured. I want to add a Jellyfin server, and there is just no, there's no discovery, nothing like that. So I'm going to have to type it all in manually. Then once that's configured, I get a really pretty beautiful experience with SenPlayer. Full size hero artwork is really nice. Looking at the main home screen, the layout's pretty good. Let's see about personal media. Let's see if I can play this in SenPlayer. Perfect. All right. So this honestly is, I can look at it in a movies view or a folders view, which, you know, I've got everything laid out in a folder tree underneath. And this is how things are actually organized on disk. So SenPlayer wins a lot of points for me on that one. Now let's take a look at the sort of proper movies library view. Okay, pretty basic, but does the trick. I can sort by movies, genres, studios, and again by folder, which sometimes is really nice. So let's take a look at the pre-play screen. What can we do on here? Markers watched. We can favorite. We can change the audio track. The subtitles, I assume. Yep, here we go. And what's this one? Search other versions. Okay, that's an interesting feature we haven't seen before. No director at the front here. That's fine too. And then similar works. What has Office Space got to do? I think this is a Jellyfin server-side thing. So like there's some like matching behind the scenes that somebody told me on Discord the other day. But then let's have a look at this. Yeah, loads of really great info. So if I select this, there you go. So you can select the audio tracks here. You can select different subtitle tracks. Yeah, it's a really nice client. Okay, let's take a look at the playback screen and see what that is going to give us. Okay, so if I press the down arrow, you can see the bitrate at the bottom there, look. So it must be buffering at 11 megabytes per second. What does this button do? This is the last file in the list. Okay, so this is like trying to show me the playlist thing, like we've seen in a couple of other clients too. Not that useful in a movie, but useful maybe in a TV series or something. I can switch around chapters, just like so. Yeah, fine. Audio enhancement. Now, this is a really interesting feature. Sometimes you just need the audio to be louder. Change the subtitles. Again, the settings. Yeah, it's useful to be able to change the scale. Is that in real time? Oh, yeah, there you go. So it does work. Dan Maku. I have literally no idea what Dan Maku is. Okay, so today I have learned that Dan Maku subtitling is something you might want if you watch a lot of anime. I don't, but it's really cool that it has that feature. Then under this menu here, you can see there is a ton of information. I get my basic nerd stats here of all the bit rates and everything, which I'm always a fan of. But I can do things like, do I want hardware decoding or software decoding for this specific file in the player? Pretty cool to be able to switch that stuff from here. Sequential play, again, that's pretty self-explanatory. Intro and outro settings, scale mode, etc., play speed. One thing I don't see an option for here, unfortunately, is how can I change the bitrate or the quality of this file? It doesn't look like SenPlayer is going to allow me to change the bitrate. And then again, looking at how this presents different series, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, really like this client. I hadn't spun it up before this video. SenPlayer is one that I saw recommended on Reddit, and I'm really glad we checked it out. So lots of other features to this client that we won't take a look at today, like recordings and local file access and all that kind of stuff. But the Jellyfin implementation kind of feels up there with Infuse. Margin call. Oh, I need to scroll down and press done. Okay, cool. Yeah. So search works exactly as you would expect. Yeah, solid client. Okay, so SenPlayer, as I say, is a solid client with a clean main home screen, and the library view is honestly pretty good. So first run defaults, I didn't really have to tweak anything. Now, I gave Infuse a hard time about its onboarding wizard, and so it'd be unfair of me to ignore that step here, like the whole resources thing that SenPlayer asks you to do versus, you know, just having like an onboarding wizard. It also doesn't expose things like auto discovery or quick connect. So there's a couple of things it could improve there, but honestly, it's a pretty fine experience. Library browsing, no real notes, to be honest. It's good, not great, just fine. So I think probably an 8 or let's do an 8, I think. Playback performance was good, so we can do a number 8. Format and quality handling with SenPlayer seems pretty good, but a lot of it is locked behind a paywall, just to make you completely aware. 4K and 8K video playback, you get 15 free playbacks, and then MKV, Blu-ray ISOs, a lot of that other stuff is only available on the Pro tier. It's $13 for a lifetime license, so it's honestly not that expensive, really. And I like the fact that you can try it out before you buy it. You can't, though, select things like transcoding qualities and bitrate qualities in the player. That would be nice. It does support HDR and Dolby Vision and all that kind of stuff, so I think an 8's probably fair. The only thing it's really lacking is that ability to transcode on the fly. Player controls were actually pretty detailed. I think if we call was it Moonfin a 9? I think this one's probably an 8 because it's just a, I don't know, maybe it's a 9 as well. Extra features, this one does support scrobbling to tracked if you want to do that. I don't think it supports things like SEER integrations. It certainly doesn't have any fancy AI search or anything like that. So extra features probably just above average at a 6. Overall polish and maturity, because this isn't a dedicated Jellyfin client, I don't know, it feels much more polished in some areas, but then there are other areas where Jellyfin specific stuff isn't exposed. So I think a 7 feels about fair. SenPlayer, it's not far off Infuse, to be honest with you. And I gave Infuse 72 and I gave this one a 77, which funnily enough seems to put it above Neptune, which maybe I need to revise my Neptune score a little bit. But yeah, SenPlayer is a solid option. So A tier. Now, in my live stream, I gave this next client called Plezy a bit of a hard time because it wasn't exposing the Apple TV keyboard to me at login time. But it does appear that Quick Connect has been fixed. Maybe this is an update that's happened recently. So I'm going to get myself connected. Very easy process this time. The auto discovery worked and Quick Connect worked as well. Now, that connection did have one small bug. I had to back out and completely quit the Plezy client and then re-enter it in order for this to show up. But apart from that, it was a smooth process. Certainly much smoother than in my live stream a week ago. But here is the Plezy client. And I think actually this one is my favorite layout for accessing media. This left side menu that we see right on the screen here. I don't know, it works for me. It reminds me of the Plex client in a lot of ways, which makes sense because Plezy comes from that same ecosystem. So looking under movies, you can see responsiveness. It's fast, right? Straight away, the first thing you notice is it's just fast. Under this 3-dot menu, we've got these options here of playing different versions of the file. You can see things like a file info, playing an external player, that kind of stuff. But I'm just going to resume this one and just see what the performance is like in playback. Yeah, there you go. I can press the down arrow, get to my chapters, right and left. Brings up this menu here, which has a ton of options. HDR is obviously supported. Audio support is good with pass-through. Performance overlay, yeah, you know how I like those. It's a solid client, you guys. This one is pretty good. Once you get past the kind of login process, which I mean, I didn't have to type anything at all this time. It's pretty good. So let's take a look at the library view. So if we scroll down, here is everything that you would expect to see. Scrolling across the top here. Yeah. This view is a little busy. It could be a little more refined, but I am splitting hairs here. Let's take a look at local files. Does it support that okay? Yeah, look at that. That's when I went to Florida and saw some alligators. That was a fun day. So this client is showing me everything on the left here that I would want to see. The home screen shows me things that are in progress. Let's have a look at TV episodes real quick and just see what the season layouts look like. If we go into TV and then browse for a show, here we go. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I kind of prefer the way this is laid out with season 1, season 2 without having to switch between a menu. For TV, I'd say that's my favorite layout so far, actually. So Plezy is a really strong client. You know, looking at this, there's not a huge amount of things to tweak and change in here. I mean, like themes, OLED versus dark. I can't tell a difference on this capture. But yeah, it's a solid client. And now I've got past the login pain that I felt in the live stream. The first run defaults, solid. So a 7 for that one, if only because of the bug where I had to close the client and then reopen it to get past the quick connect screen. Small thing, but it was there nonetheless. Library browsing ease was great. Playback performance was great. Format and quality handling is pretty good. And I just found that you can actually select, if you go under play version, you can select the various bit rates of the file as well. So that's really nice. The word play version not the correct phrasing. It should be something like select quality or something like that. So small thing, but format and quality handling, I think, is going to have to be up there as an 8. Player controls were good and intuitive. No notes there, really. Extra features, again, like nothing groundbreaking. So this one is a solid 6. So I think this client sits in probably A tier, to be honest with you. Plezy is a really solid client. Now we're going to take a look at Reefy. This is a client that I just found literally on the App Store, just browsing it, looking at different options that we had available to us. So let me get logged in with Reefy. Again, like the default Swiftfin client, I'm just left with a blank grey screen, which is kind of disappointing. All right, looking at the rest of this screen, yeah, pretty standard layout. Nothing really to write home about. Does it play local files okay? Yeah, you can see I just crashed into a sandpit with my racing drone. Okay, now let's have a look at a metadata matched piece of media. You see there's some UI glitches there. You see how those bounding boxes around like the heart and stuff, kind of overlaying different things. I can select the subtitles. I can mark as watched. I can favorite it. I can watch a trailer. So I press and hold the play button. Does anything happen? No. But if I press play, what happens? Oh, is that the playback screen? Oh, that's dreadful. That's not very good at all, is it? Certainly compared to some of the other ones we've seen in this video. We can't select quality. The cast and crew is there. I mean, this has the bare bones of being a good client one day, but it certainly isn't there yet. This home screen is fine. Media, yeah. Yeah, let's just have a look at going through TV shows and selecting a season. Ooh, live TV. Coming soon. All right. The Office. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, look, this client browsing through the media, it's all right. It's just everything else around it, I think, needs a bit more work. Let's have a look at the search screen. Margin call. Yeah. Okay. And then what settings do we have exposed to us? Oh, that's it, is it? Yeah, not much at all. Playback quality. Okay, so I can select like a maximum bitrate for the entire client, like client-wide. Okay, so Reefy has some work to do. It feels in a lot of places unfinished. First run defaults, though, pretty good. Like it looks nice. Library browsing ease was pretty good. Playback performance was fine. I'm going to put it completely middle of the road. Format and quality handling, again, because I can't really select the qualities other than globally. It could be better. Player controls were just dreadful, unfortunately. So didn't really expose anything to me other than audio tracks. Extra features, there were none as far as I could tell. So that's going to be a 2 probably. An overall polish and maturity, I think. Clearly there's a lot of work to do with this client. Like in places it's just not finished. So yeah, unfortunately Reefy is going to go down in D tier with JellySee. All right, let's take a look at a new one that I had only just heard of a couple of days ago called TechDad Player. Now, I already took the liberty of getting logged into this one. It didn't support auto discovery or quick connect. And honestly, I don't really like this client, if I'm being honest. So it does expose audiobooks, but in a weird way. It does expose drone, which is a personal video, non-metadata matched set of content. Nothing is exposed. Movies is here. But then this is literally the view. I just have, I guess, an infinite scroll list of the movies here. There's no up, down, recently added, etc., etc. It's kind of weird. Same for music, no content, personal videos, no content, TV. Again, I just get an endless list that I go left or right into. I then load up the show and I can at least switch between the various seasons, but I don't get like a pre-play screen. And I ran into an issue a few minutes ago where various things just weren't playing. I think there's some codec mismatch on this particular Rick and Morty file, and I can't press and hold and get any info. I can't really see anything other than the 1080p resolution that's there. So let's score TechDad. Doesn't support auto discovery or quick connect. The first view, like the library view on the screen, is, I don't know, it's pretty bad, to be honest with you. It wouldn't scale to a large library at all. Playback performance, not good. Didn't play Rick and Morty, for example. I wasn't able to select any different qualities. Oh dear, I'm being very harsh on this one, but it's just not good. Player controls are pretty minimal. I can only select the audio track and the subtitles. Very basic now playing screen. Extra features, as far as I can tell, there were none. So I'm afraid this client is just a pretty much an F, to be honest. I mean, it actually works and it loads my media and it plays some files, but it's really not worth your time. Now, the other thing is that this one is a subscription-based one. I think it's 99 cents a month or $8 a year. So factor that into your decision, but TechDad Player is an F, I'm afraid. We are getting towards the end of this video, I think. Now, Streamyfin, I've got to not let my iOS impressions cloud my judgment of this tvOS client. I really like Streamyfin on the phone, but it's not fully baked on tvOS yet. As you can see, no auto discovery, no quick connect. Oh, no, quick connect is down there. Okay, let me use that. At least quick connect is supported, so that was nice. It just doesn't quite feel as polished. I know these devs are good because I've seen what they can do on iOS, so I have a lot of hope for this client. But just as of right now, today, it's just not quite where it needs to be, although it's pretty good. I mean, look at it. This now playing screen, or pre-playing screen, it's pretty solid, like lots of information laid out cleanly, uses all the artwork nicely. Can I do the press and hold thing to bring up another menu? No, I can't. Let me continue from 1 hour 16. Let's have a look at the now playing screen. Okay, yeah, I can scrabble around between chapters. How do I change chapters? Is that what this button's for? Yeah, okay. I never quite know in these things, you know, is that going to skip me 10 seconds or is that going to skip me a whole chapter? You just never know. You've got to play roulette with these things. But I can select my audio track right here. I can also change subtitle and download it from, I guess, OpenSubs. That's pretty nice. And then I get my nerd stats right here, which are pretty basic compared to some of the other clients. But it's nice that we have them at all, honestly, compared to other things in the ecosystem like Plex or what have you. Let's see how this goes. Margin call. Okay, yeah, we know what that looks like by now. Favorites, I haven't made any. Library view, let's see how it does with local media. Who knows? Play. Okay, yeah, pretty fine. All right. Performance seems pretty good, like that loaded nice and fast. So it supports local videos. It supports metadata matched movies and what have you. Again, a little bit of UI weirdness there. You see that sort of clipping in the UI elements at the top. But it's nice to have these options to sort in different patterns. And then looking at the settings, there aren't a huge amount of knobs and dials to tweak here, to be honest with you. So I know Streamyfin is a really new entry into the tvOS world. And again, like I said, because I know of their iOS pedigree, I think this is going to be a client to watch. But for right now, it's pretty good overall. It's just not quite there. It will get there. I have faith. So first run defaults, you can see this just looks great. I didn't have to do any tweaking. It didn't support auto discovery, but it did support quick connect. Now, Streamyfin has a kind of server-side MDM component to it, a little bit like what Neptune does. So you can configure Streamyfin once on your Jellyfin server and then push out that configuration to remote clients. That's always a really nice thing to have. Let's have a look at the library view for... Well, hang on a minute. How do I switch between TV and movies? Oh, that's kind of confusing, no? Library should mean both. Or I should be able to select between them separately. Yeah, season 1, season 2. It's kind of weird how I don't know. Like I'm kind of getting a bit lost in there. So, library browsing, unfortunately, for Streamyfin it's got some work to do, I think. So a 3 for right now. Playback performance was good and snappy. I could play local files, so local formats and quality handling was fine. But I can't select the qualities yet, so I think a 7 is probably fair on that one. Player controls, fine. So let's give that one a 6. Extra features, because it has the mobile device management styles like server-side push, that's pretty nice. But again, no like groundbreaking new features in this one, so I think a 6 is fair. Overall polish, I think for now a 6 feels pretty fair given some of the library browsing weirdness. I mean, that's one of the core things a client has to do, is expose your media to you. So for right now, I think, unfortunately, I've given it a 62, which really should put it in like B tier. And it's kind of like Moonfin, right? I see the potential of where this one's going. For right now, today, on this day in history, Streamyfin is a C tier. Now, I wanted to take a look at this client here called Stingray. Unfortunately, I just couldn't get it to log in. I don't know what, maybe it's something I've got wrong. Maybe it's a server-side problem. I'm not sure. But Stingray just straight up won't work. You can see here the server's format. I don't know what's going on. Logged in the same way as I did with every other client. And unfortunately, because I can't get logged in, I can't really test anything. So I'm just going to have to score this one a 0 for everything. Now, I'm sure I'm running into some weird bug. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to give Stingray zeros across the board and put it in the F tier. So now let's take a look at OopsPlayer TV. This is a new client. Again, it appears to be more interested in showing me things I don't have. I mean, I haven't even logged into my server yet. Weird. So let's add Jellyfin. I mean, look, it does support a lot of sources and inputs and stuff. So I guess it's in the same bucket as like SenPlayer and Infuse. Let's see how this Jellyfin login experience goes. All right, no auto discovery support. Well, this is annoying. So not only do I have to select the port as 443 rather than 8096 because it's going through an HTTPS reverse proxy, I also then have to select HTTPS on and also remove the HTTPS string that I put in the host field. You could remove all of that just by passing the string that I gave you. Anyway, let's save that and see once we're logged in what happens next, because this is where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? Okay, home screen. This looks nice. First impressions are solid, presenting all of my media to me, including local files. What happens when I click play? Oh, so I didn't have the play button selected. I had the overview selected. Obviously, that should be the default. Click play. Yeah, what happens here? Oh, I like that. It shows me the bitrate down in the bottom corner. That is nice. That is nice. And then let's look at the rest of the player controls whilst we're here. So settings. Okay, is that it? That's it, apparently. Audio. Now, admittedly, I don't have subtitles or an audio track on this file, really. So let me go to one that does and see what kind of view we get. I'm pressing select on my remote and nothing is happening. Okay. I'm getting a little weary of some of these things not working. See, okay, now when I click view details there, it works. But when I click on the actual cover of the movie, nothing happens. It's just inconsistent. And that really has been my experience across a lot of these clients. It's just random inconsistencies. All right, so we've got lots of media here. We can select the audio track. This reminds me of, is this just a skin over SenPlayer at this point? It feels very similar. Audio, subtitles. Okay, I can't navigate chapters. Well, OopsPlayer is kind of interesting, but also kind of annoying at the same time. First run defaults were not good. My login experience there was pretty dreadful. Doesn't support auto discovery or quick connect. Library browsing. Let me just have a look at library browsing. Let's go through TV. Again, it says browse your MB libraries, and I pressed select like 20 times, and then it eventually took. What's going on with that? Okay, browsing the library is fine. Yeah, all right, we'll leave it at a 5. Playback performance was fine, so let's give that a 6. Quality handling, no ability to do things like selecting different qualities for transcodes and what have you, but it does have a pretty good set of codec supports with HDR and Dolby Vision and that kind of stuff. I'd probably give it a 7, I think, because it does support a lot of formats. It played local files just fine. Player controls were completely middle of the road, nothing special. It could improve a few things on the player screen, like we saw with Moonfin. Again, I really like that one. Extra features, I think because this one's trying to do a lot and Jellyfin is kind of an afterthought, it ends up being a bit of a jack of all trades and a master of none. So we'll give that one an extra features of a 3. I think an overall polish and maturity score of a 5 is about fair, to be honest with you. So this one, I think OopsPlayer TV is a C tier. Now coming on to our last genuine Apple TV client for today, LiquidFin. This is a native Jellyfin client for Apple TV devices. Okay, so I'm going to pair with my phone now, am I? Okay, let me download LiquidFin on my phone. I'm going to add a new server in on my phone right here. This is the LiquidFin iOS app. I could use Quick Connect, but honestly, it's just as easy for me when I'm on my phone like this to type. So let's see what happens. I got logged in on the phone. Okay, so now I go to settings and then pair with an Apple TV. And I get to now scan a QR code. Which was pretty easy. And there we go, PMS demo. Yeah? Oh, hey, that worked. Well, that's pretty fun. Bit different. I mean, Quick Connect already exists, so I feel like they're kind of reinventing the wheel a little bit, but sure. LiquidFin Player, custom controls with rendering, native rendering for picture-in-picture and HDR. Sure, let's go for that. And we're in. Okay, well, this is a bit of a different layout, isn't it? I mean, it's a lot of familiar stuff, but again, like the fonts here, I don't know, the icons, I don't know, it could be prettier. Let's have a look at video playback here. Yeah, I crashed into a tree. My poor racing drone. It had a hard life. Let's have a look at the player settings that are exposed here. I get very minimal options here. Okay. Info. Yeah. All right. So the now playing screen is pretty sparse. Let's have a look at metadata matched media like some movies and stuff. Yeah. Let's go in here and see what we've got. Okay, yeah, I mean, I can see the media info. It's interesting how it doesn't give me the option to really have like a separate TV library. Although I suppose if I go to the bottom and select it that way, it kind of does the same thing. I mean, look, this client has potential. It's not my absolute favorite today. But the link up between, or the fact that they're going to link up between iOS and tvOS, clearly they've started doing that with the login experience. That's nice. So let's see what this looks like. Margin call. Okay, yeah. Works exactly as you would expect. And then under settings, what options do we have? LiquidFin Pro. Well, there's the pricing for you. Downloads on iOS and macOS. JellySee integration. Family sharing. Yeah, some nice stuff there. We can customize the interface. Again, this client feels like... Yeah... It feels like some of this stuff set on a global level just isn't that useful on a TV. Or maybe it is. I mean, like if you set it, you know, at a remote cabin or something with only Starlink for internet or something, or something even worse. Yeah, I don't know. LiquidFin seems like a pretty good option, to be honest with you, in time. It's another one of those clients that has a lot of potential. So let's have a look at that first run default experience. It was pretty interesting how it linked up with the phone and what have you. It's the first client that's really done that. So this is the first run default view that we see, and I don't know, it's a little cluttered. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. I mean, I think there are better ones that we've seen today. So because it has that fun link up between the iOS client and the tvOS client, I'm going to give it a 6. But the actual visuals here, I don't know, they could use some more polish, I think. Library browsing ease, not that easy, to be honest with you, because you have to scroll all the way to the bottom to get, I mean, it's not bad, it's just not great. So I'm going to leave that one again, probably at a 6. Playback performance seemed fine, so that's going to get a 7. Formats and quality handling, again, it supports all the formats and qualities that we want, but it doesn't give me a way to expose on a per file basis the transcode qualities, although it does let me set that on a global level. Player controls, we just need more of them. What's there is fine. Extra features, I think because of the iOS link up, I'm going to leave this one at a 5 as well. So overall, I would say that LiquidFin feels like a pretty middle of the road client, to be honest. It has, again, like a couple of the others that we've seen today, it has potential, like Streamyfin, like Moonfin. You know, these things, they have potential. They're just not there yet. But this ecosystem is changing all the time and improving all the time. So just because this is in C tier today, next week it could very well be in B tier. So I'll have to revisit all of this in 6 months' time. But LiquidFin is C tier. Now let's take a look at the final inclusion in today's list. This is like a bonus client right here. This is called Nostalgex, and this is a way to turn your Jellyfin client into like cable TV. Like if you've ever seen Ersatz TV or any other clients that let you take your existing library and kind of turn it into a TV guide type experience, I don't have all that many items in my library, so I'm going to have to go through here and just select as many packages as I can. Again, this is just a bonus inclusion. This isn't really like a strict Jellyfin client, but it's pretty interesting to be able to just browse my library like this. It solves the problem of now what should we watch? So Nostalgex is, well, it doesn't really belong on the tier scale, does it? So let's just put it in C tier for now. It doesn't get a proper score like all the others, but it's a fun client nonetheless. So that leaves me to the conclusion of today's video, I think, which is that the Jellyfin tvOS client ecosystem is rapidly evolving, I think might be an understatement. Just in the few days where I've been filming this video, which literally was the space of about 5 actual days, some of these clients have seen massive changes. I mean, Jellyfin 12 was released, the release candidate was released halfway through me filming this video. So the whole ecosystem is changing and moving beneath our feet. All the clients are changing. There's just a huge amount of excitement in the ecosystem right now, given the Plex news that happened. But what a time to be looking at moving to Jellyfin, huh? This is where the brains are right now. Then a lot of this stuff you just can't do in the Plex ecosystem, and I'm so looking forward to some of these big clients up here, like where Moonfin's going. Looking forward to seeing where that one's going. Streamyfin, I know on the iOS side's great already. LiquidFin too. The standout one for me today really probably was like a mixture of these 4, to be honest with you. I mean, I've used Infuse for a long time. I know that it's a mature and reliable client, but it's just not that exciting. Neptune, I think with the AI-powered search, is the one that I'm personally rooting for. I have no affiliation to the project, really. SenPlayer, again, it's in that same bucket as Infuse. And Plezy, with just a few tweaks, it's already there. Like it's already a solid experience. So, you know, you can't really go wrong with any of these A or B tier clients. Honestly, they're all pretty good already. Are they finished? Well, no. Is any software ever finished? I hope you found something useful in today's video, and I know it was a long one. So thank you for watching. If you're still watching at this point, I don't know, comment in the comments section down below that you're a Jellyfin. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know down below what you think of the different clients. The next one I'm going to be working on is an NVIDIA Shield, sort of Android TV client rundown. And I know from I can already probably tell you the outcome of that one of Wolfin is going to be the winner. It's just great. But I'll show you in that video how I used codecs and ChatGPT to sort of use ADB remote debugging tools across the network to make my NVIDIA Shield feel faster than it did when it was brand new, to be honest with you, which for a 10-year-old device ain't no small thing, especially in a world where hardware, I mean, the Steam machine was just announced yesterday or the day before, unfortunately at a much higher price than anybody wanted. So right now, we just got to make do with what we've got, I think is probably the standard mode of operation right now. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate everybody that sticks around to the end of these videos. And until the next one, I've been Alex from KTZ Systems.